It's the morning wake up with Stella and Tabs, and we have such a special guest that I have been wanting to have on the show for a very long time.
Oh man, you've been hanging out for this one, man, and you've done a great job in securing an international artist. And so this is all you, Tabby. So well done on being able to secure the one and the only Anike. She joins us right now. Good morning, Anike.
Hey.
Hey.
How have you been? It's been about 4 years since you've put out an album. Is that correct?
Yeah. I can't believe it's been that long. Honestly, that's not gonna happen anymore. But yes, I'm so excited.
Well, you haven't fully disappeared. You've had lots of singles come out, but this is your
Yeah.
first proper album in a while. What was happening in those 4 years?
She be
A
dancing,
lot of
girl.
a lot
She
of
was
life.
dancing.
The world shut down. There was COVID. I filmed some shows before, but then some of the shows like went through different things. So different phases of life. But now I'm here. And the Lord has finally, brought all of it to completion, and I'm so glad that it's out and ready to be with the world.
We haven't spoken to you ever, but one thing we do know is that you have changed your name from Wande to Anike. Now, I love
Yes,
the literal translation of Anike, and I love the fact you're saying you've got your roots coming through there as well. The goodness of God, we have something to care for, cherish, and not take for granted. You
yes.
must feel like a real awesome energy carrying that name with you wherever you go.
Why did you change the name? What's the story behind that?
Yeah, so I changed my name just because the Lord brought it to my remembrance and he asked me to. And the origins of my name, so actually a lot of my family growing up, they're not Christian. And so because of that, they weren't thinking about Christianity when they named me. And so it just followed the typical Yoruba culture from Nigeria. And a lot of Yoruba culture doesn't give glory to Jesus and to God. And so my original name meant reincarnation. So my full original name was Ye Wande. Ye means the mother, Wa means of ours, Day has come back. So Ye and then has come back. And so whenever you put all that together, it just basically represented, like I said earlier, reincarnation. And the Lord, obviously, if you love Jesus, he's not team reincarnation. And so the Lord was just like, hey, you're redeemed, you're born again, but then I just want you to let that name go for this next chapter of life.
What was it like for your parents finding out that you changed your name if they were the ones
It
that
was
named?
very interesting. So, but actually they all took it really well. So I think they all kind of respect me. And I've been like, I've been saved since I was young, since I was in middle school. So they've seen me for like, I don't know, 10, 15 years walking with Jesus and like being really consistent about what I believe. And so, they're like, okay, if that's what God is telling you to do, I'll respect it. And so it's definitely hard because they've called me a certain name their whole life, but they respect it and they're going along with it.
I'll tell you what, you can't see this, but Anika's got an impressive microphone in front of her, man. It is, that thing is styling. Now, that segues me nicely into a career that you had before going into the music industry. Well, it's part of your music industry journey, but you were on the other side. You were like one of us as a journalist.
Yeah, it
Dude,
was.
how did that all come about? And are we
Yeah,
doing a good
so
job?
So I went to school for broadcast journalism, and yeah, I loved God, and I always loved getting plugged in. So I got started early. I had some great friends who were like, "Hey, why don't you just reach out and see if you can get an internship?" And so I reached out while I was in college, and I was able to get some jobs. Like actually, as a journalist, I worked for Rapzilla at one point, and even the Recording Academy too at one point. And so it was really cool, like getting to interview artists. Yeah, and seeing the other side of things. So it really just came from having initiative and having faith and just asking for a job and like obviously writing a letter of like, hey, this is what value I feel like I can add to the company. But yeah, that's kind of how it came about, and it was great because interviewing artists helps give me advice along the way as I'm interviewing them of just like what it's like being an artist, advice that they would have for their past selves, and I was able to see more of the industry as well, like while also interviewing, working, and it was fun.
Man, talking about the industry, so you've seen it on both sides of the coin, right? The music industry.
Yeah.
How do you balance your faith with what you see in the music industry around you? Because there will be challenges on that, and keeping your faith in order at the same time.
Yeah, I feel like one of the biggest life lessons that the Lord has taught me, it took some time, but it's not growing weary and doing good. So I feel like that's how you maintain, your faith throughout all of this, because I think the biggest fatigue that comes to artists is just if you get weary. So whenever you get weary and you start looking to the left and to the right of like, oh, well, it looks on paper like they're succeeding and they're going the opposite way and they're living a sinful life. But if you don't grow weary and you remember, like, well, eternity is what really matters, and the true riches are in heaven, and the true riches are with your relationship with God, then it helps you to not grow weary in doing good and to maintain your walk with God and to persevere. And as you begin to persevere, you start seeing cycles. So the longer you stay in this, you start to see that, like, really people start coming to you and saying, like, hey man, everything you told me 5 years ago, I'm starting to see it now. I want to pursue Jesus. I want to live for God. And then your walk, just maintaining a consistent walk with God, it speaks for itself as well. And people begin to respect it. And they, over time, they start to come to you for questions, to ask about the Lord. And yeah, you start seeing people turn around and change.
That's
cool.
awesome.
You're a busy gal. How do you maintain a close relationship with Jesus when you're traveling, you're doing all sorts of things, you're performing, you're writing, doing all sorts of things? How do you do that?
Yeah, I think it's a fight. So I think that's the part people don't see when they ask for blessings. Sometimes it's a blessing to not have much because you have a lot of time to spend with God and less distractions, actually. So for me, it's a fight to remember, like, you said you wouldn't forget God when you get these things. So here's your test. So it's a fight to really put him first. And also just like having a routine. It's funny because it sounds so simple, but having a routine can really change your life, of like really saying, like, no, when I wake up, the first thing I do is read my Bible. The first thing I do is, like, read the word, pray, and really sticking to it. What really happens is if you don't stick to that routine and then you start answering emails and stuff like that, you start talking to people, then all of a sudden you're like, I don't got time. But it was like the time was there. You just had to stick to the routine, stick to the schedule. Yeah.
All about your priorities.
You sound like you got it all together.
Uh,
Everything's, you talk about routine, and that's important. I believe in that as well. It sounds like you know where your purpose is at. Is this what you were meant to do, Anike?
I think definitely is what I was meant to do. It's funny, I posted a video yesterday that I felt like God told me to post. It was of me rapping when I was like a teenager. Like when I first found out I could rap, I was a kid. And it's crazy too because I